Hello everyone, welcome to Sydney Testers. We've got a great treat to you tonight, a great speaker. His name's Matthew Santon-Rutherford. And he'll be talking about how to use the test pyramid for test automation. Now, before that, I'll introduce you briefly to Sydney Testers and what we do, before I'll bring you on to our main speaker. Now, what we will be doing tonight is that because there's a bit of audience participation required at the end, we'll be allowing people to join our live chat through our live stream group through StreamYards, and they will be able to ask questions and interact at the appropriate time towards the end. Let me just show you our introduction slides first to Sydney Testers. This is how to use the test pyramid for test automation with Matthew Santon-Rutherford. You can tweet it. You can do it at hashtag at SydMSR or tweet at Sydney Testers.
For test automation with Matthew Santon-Rutherford.
And so what we'll do is we'll start. This will be a short introduction by me, and the talk will start at about 5:35 or shortly afterwards. So who are we? We're a group of volunteers with a focus on improving testing for Sydney. We've been around for a number of years, and we're very passionate about testing and QA. We organize monthly talks, socials, and other events for the Sydney testing community, and now for the past year, we've been online. We have a wide range of local international speakers. Recent speakers have included names like Michael Bolton, Zoe Tive, Sammy Connolly, Baz Dykstra, Trish Koo, Richard Bradshaw, and Richard Rogers. And if you want to get involved, just speak to us or just reach out and contact us. And thanks to our ongoing sponsors who have followed us for many years and helped us out many times in the past. TestEd, run by Catherine Carina. Let me introduce Matt. Hello, Matt. How are you?
Hi, Paul. Good, thanks.
So cool. So if you can just share your screen.
Yep. Okay.
Excellent. So I'm just adding it now, and I'm just going to remove myself. And please go ahead. We're really looking forward to it. Sure, it'll be a great chat, great talk. Thank you so much, by the way.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for everyone for coming along. Okay, so the title for my talk is how to use the test pyramid for test automation. And this is from Agile Testing for the Whole Team, a course I did last December. So who am I? Oh. Can I actually change the slides? Here we go. So I grew up in Newcastle. This is in Merewether. This is Merewether Baths, Merewether Beach, just up to the left here. This is 5 minutes drive away from my home, and my family spent many summer evenings here. I went to a local primary school, which was about a 10-minute walk away, and the local high school, which was about a 20-minute walk away. Newcastle, as you might understand, is pretty small. This childhood was pretty sweet. Then off to Newcastle University, where I got distracted by the possibilities of life, and it took 7 years to do a 3-year degree. Not surprisingly, coding turned out to not be quite my thing. So I moved to Sydney when I was 25 and worked in customer service for Telstra. And I got into testing at Y2K in 1998, when quite frankly, it was pretty easy to do so. So in the Agile Testing for the Whole Team course, this section is called Making Automation Work. So Janet Gregory, and this course is written by Janet Gregory and Janet Crispin, who are co-authors of Agile Testing, a practical guide for testers and agile teams, and more agile testing. And this is their logo in the bottom right-hand corner. So I attended a train the trainer for this this course, and I've got permission from them to chunk this down for testers meetup. So this is a mind map of the entire course, and what I'm showing you tonight is a section of making automation work. So I might be covering some of the stuff that you already know about test automation, but please bear with me as we get through this kind of pre-information. So why should you test automate? We always have these ideas about why we should automate, because manual checking takes too long. Manual checks are error prone, especially when you're doing the same boring thing over and over. It frees up people to do their best work, to do the human part of testing. Test automation can provide living documentation. It's easily repeatable, and saves time when it's done properly. There's a video that Janet shows during this section about the monkey business, where you've got two teams passing a ball, and then a monkey comes through the scene and beats his chest and walks off. And it's about, you do the exercise of going, well, how many passes were done, and then you don't notice the monkey coming in and beating the chest because you're being distracted by other tasks. And test automation can get rid of that problem because it's just focusing on the task. Okay. So what are the obstacles that teams find? What are some of the obstacles keeping your team from automating? So if you'd like to put some of those comments into the YouTube channel, that would be great. Paul, if you'd like to read those out. Some of the ones I find that I come across is that people don't know where to start. They don't know what's going to be the best return on investment. They don't know what tool to use. I guess there's a bit of fear related to that. What will happen to my job if it starts to be automated? I'm in an agile test team. I don't have time to automate. We can't afford to. Can you afford not to? Sort of stuff. I've seen. I did a gig at Transport for New South Wales with a team that do the panel indicators that you would see on the platforms, and we came in and did a test automation for them, and they kind of lacked, I guess, the skills and the time. It's mostly about time, really. And they already some teams don't have a suitable test set to start with. Or if you're just going to start doing it in your agile team, are you really going to automate every acceptance criteria? Paul, any other feedback from the YouTube group?
Not at the moment. Just we've had one person who's joined the live chat. Sorry, the StreamYard, and that's a guy called somebody called Jothy. Thanks for joining. No questions as of yet.
Okay.
Actually, let me just unmute Jothy and ask him if he or she has any questions. Oh, they've chosen to mute themselves, so for the moment, please carry on.
Okay, good. So why aren't you automating? So there's fear. Oh, money, the cost, time. Changing GUI. Look, changing GUI can be a significant barrier to automating. Your automation script is all beautiful and it picks up every component on the screen, and then the developers do something that changes the IDs, and now your script is broken, and this is going to be a huge maintenance issue. So, the fear, change is hard. Learning how to automate tests is hard. Nobody's going to do it if they don't feel enough pain. Programmers who can depend on testers to find all the defects have no reason to help with test automation or even design testable code. So this can sometimes be a rod we've created for our own backs, that we're the guardians or the gatekeepers of quality. And so when you're asking for developers to kind of help you with that, look at you as if, well, that's your job. There's never enough time in the day. Product owner can choose features over investments or automation. So if you are going to choose to automate, you're going to have to accept that you're going to have to go slower initially to go faster in the future, and that is going to be a difficult sell. So back to change requirements in GUI. In Agile, we start small, simple with basic features and change, and add more complexity. How do you accommodate this for automation? So Brian Marrick talks about a hump of pain. So you've got a whole lot of effort to start with. Maybe you've got legacy code and changing code. You've got tools, infrastructure, and time to deal with. And so there's a huge logic. There's more effort than return on investment to start with. So there's not much to say about this rather than this is what it is. So any questions on automation obstacles or any comments people would like to make about that?
Yes, we've just got one question. I'm just going to show it on the screen, or comment actually. For me, it's somebody, Sonia Neji has just said, for me, it's fear, though I have more than 10 years of experience in QA, but I'm new to UI automation.
Right, yep. And that's a very natural thing. Thank you for that. Okay. On to the next part. Your automation test strategy. So we've talked about just trying it, but you do need a strategy. You need to consider where to start and what's the best use of automation will be to give you some direction. This doesn't mean that you need to plan it all out, but you need some plan, and the strategy will kind of help you with that plan. In this section, there are ideas about how to think about automation. In the following section, we'll talk about where to start. So in the traditional waterfall approach, where we've got requirements, specifications, code, and testing, all the automation was done here in testing, usually as a regression test only. But in Agile, which is iterative and incremental, we want to test basically everywhere. So at each story, at each release, after each iteration. And to my mind, there's no... So I'm just having this discussion at the moment at this team that I've just joined, and they've had some test automation built and paid for by their vendor, and then actually getting this into a regular use seems to be a bit of a struggle. I've been talking to their manager, and she's saying, should it be every day? And I'm going, oh, God, I don't know. I'm thinking, how often do they get change in? How long does it take to work? I'm thinking, at the moment, it's taking them months just to get the software installed. I'm thinking, well, let's start with once a week and see how we go. So again, it's kind of an incremental start somewhere that you think you can achieve and learn from there. We talk about doing experiments. There's no reason why this can't be experimented as well. Keeping up. So in this example, we've got some dragon boaters, and you can see the full team is rowing together to finish the race. You can see the drummers here. The drummer gives them the rhythm or the cadence, but it's the whole team that needs to work together. If one person paddles out of sync, it throws the whole team off. The secret is understanding it takes the whole team to work together. So what does this have to do with automation? Automation can help determine that beat and maybe even speed it up. So when you've got regular checks that the code is good, you can go faster. You're not spending time going, oh, the implementation into my test environment, it's not right, or I can't. This bit's broken, and manual testing might take you a day to realize that. But with automation, you can find out straight away. Your automation test strategy, getting over the hump. So these are the topics that will be covered in this section. Test automation pyramid, what should be automated, what shouldn't, making decisions on where to start, and applying Agile principles. So traditionally, automation testing has looked like this. End-to-end workflow tests through the GUI, some tests through the API, and unit tests. The test automation period by Mike Cohen has it more looking like this. Look, I'm sure everyone is familiar with this. You've got your workflow tests through the UI. This should automate at the feature level. Then API service layer, business rules functional tests, automate at the story level, and then down here, unit test, component test, automate at the task level. So thinking about the automation period as your regression suite, not all tests can be automated, hence a smoke bubble on the top. This is manual tests. Some regression tests will need to be done in person. And exploratory testing could be a useful tool to use here. So push automation to the lowest level possible. The benefits involve fast feedback. You relate the pyramid to the level of precision. A feature has many stories. Stories have many tasks. The middle layer is where we will concentrate our efforts, since that is usually the least understood. automation needs to be easy to maintain, and developers can be key here. Thinking outside the box, holistic testing. Can the developers expand their unit test framework to do some of the functional stuff? Automation teams can be part of the everyday test development, but can take a variety of looks. Automation is not for finding bugs, it is a change detector. Test-driven development is more about designing. Okay. So this is API automated structure. We've got test examples, which passes to the test method. This is the test automation code. This works with the test framework, and this calls the system under test. Engaging the developers to help you with this structure, especially the middle layer, will be essential. The magic to me is when the conversation between testers and programmers happens when you're looking at the test methods/fixtures. This is where the technical awareness really comes into play. Being able to ask the right questions and understand the answers is key here. All right. So this is an example. We've got a classic login example, and here we've got 2 usernames, same password, different expected results, some comments about what we're expecting here. So the the automated test calls the login function, compares your actual result returned by the login function to the expected result, which is access systems, Janet Crispin, or error. If it's true, it returns a pass, else it returns a fail. So this is about the conversation. Testers can turn an example into a test. They can do this without knowing how to code, but they need technical awareness about what is going on in the code. The example used on the slide, no, we don't need to talk about that. Okay.
When you have a moment, we've got a few questions. When
you're
oh, yeah.
Yep, let's go.
Okay, cool. The first question is from Gaurav Chakraborty. He posted this in the Facebook chat. What are the things to keep in mind when writing test automation strategy for a group who are new to automation?
I think we will get to that. We'll come back to that, I think, Paul.
Okay, thanks. And Jyoti posted a question in the private chat, which I'll just put into a banner and we'll show now. He says, how to handle the situation when there is less unit tests and more UI tests in the project.
Oh. Yeah, that's a hard place to start, isn't it? I think start talking to your team about the benefit of asking getting the developers to do more unit tests and pushing those unit tests down into the lower levels of the pyramid. Is it worthwhile retooling those UI tests, or can they be dumped? Depending on the cost of that, the cost of those UI tests, and then maybe this is kind of set up a task board, kind of a task board or some stories to help your team manage those changes that you want to do, and work with the product owner and the scrum manager to get those prioritized into your sprints. So you're making your plan changes over time. Because look, I would expect that to take many, many months to change, if not a year. So another thing you might need is patience and maybe a useful metric to measure that work and its benefit. Because if you're asking the product manager to take time away from features, then he or she may want to see return on investment of that.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks. Okay, that's all the questions at the moment. Oh, we've got another one. Jyoti says thank you, Paul and Matt.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for answering that. Okay.
All right, good. Okay, so now we're going to do an exercise on the test automation pyramid. In the previous login example, get a bit of paper, draw your test automation pyramid. Identify other tests that would be best automated at each level. Unit, API, service, UI. Think about the value too, what matters to the business, to the customer, what tests would be better. explored as charters. So everyone, we've got just a few minutes to do this. I'm gonna grab myself a bit of paper and have a go. If Paul and I had thought ahead very well, we'd have some music, but we don't. Okay, Paul, do you want to invite people along so they can talk in StreamYard?
Sorry about that. I was actually muted. Yeah, just if you can join the live stream group chat at the StreamYard link that I posted at the top of the YouTube comment section, and also it's on the page now. Sorry, it's on the screen now. What we can do is, if you can join the live chat, we can show our various pyramids and have a discussion about it. Sonia Nagy asked if we can repeat the task. The task is basically what's shown on the screen. So you draw a test automation pyramid, identify other tests that we best automate at each level, think about value, what matters to the business, what matters to customers. We can show, we just while people are just finishing off and joining, I've just got another question from Gaurav. Shall I ask it, or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Or a comment, really, a comment. Oh, Gaurav has joined the chat, actually.
Oh, okay, great.
But I'll repeat what he said. I think we should change our strategy in this case to automate UI instead. The team should focus on saving time and automating repetitive tasks. I agree. I think that's, what do you think?
We should automate it UI.
Yeah, in this case, instead, the team should focus on saving time and automating repetitive tasks.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But there is another slide later on talking about what else can you automate than tests, and definitely repetitive tasks, implementations, all that sort of great stuff. Test data. I'm a huge fan of automated test data.
All right. Cool. So Sonia and Gaurav have now joined the live stream. Let me add them, and Jyoti as well, if they're interested, so they can contribute. In the meantime, I'll just Jyoti, Gaurav, Sonia, you'll have to unmute yourself if you want to chat.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you. Hello, Sonia.
That's so great. Yeah. I'm just on YouTube, so I couldn't talk actually. Yeah. So just to understand this thing, right? So test automation pyramid. So what actually, we have drawn the pyramid, and then what exactly we need to do? Actually, I didn't understand that. Do we write that on paper and just show it to you, right? Whatever we have done.
Yeah. Yep. Can we?
Yeah.
Can we see their cameras, Paul?
Yes, so Sonia is showing her camera now.
Okay.
In fact, I might just put her on solo layout for the moment so we can see in the full screen what she's done. Sonia, do you mind?
I didn't do anything. I just designed the pyramid.
Oh, okay. Well,
And I'm just doing that stuff now. So yeah.
that's fair enough, Sonia. Sonia, I'll take your time. I've got mine to show first, actually.
Okay.
So
All
while
right.
you're doing that, I'll just show mine. I'll just start my cam. Hello, everyone. Let me just put myself on solo layout. So this is mine. So we have so I've included some additional. I've got UI integration unit. API, I could have some as exploratory. I know that there are some testers out there who like doing exploratory testing of UIs. UI, I'd have more, or I said certain, or I can't even write. Some may be written better as exploratory testing. Service level tests I put in as part of integration, and database as well, or database access ones. And below then I've got unit tests. They'll remain automated. I've also got another section on test data generation, which is always an area that tends to be forgotten about when we talk about test automation. So Matt?
Yeah, that's a good start. So, but Paul, can you give me an example of the sort of test that you might run through the API at the integration layer then?
Well, all the tests, well, it will be API endpoints to show they serve the same response. Things like security. Also, there are business. I would much rather run, say, business layer tests through the API than through the UI.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
example of what a business test might be.
You know, calculation of a certain value or progression of a customer from one state to the next, or execution of some transaction.
So I'm thinking in this example, I wrote down I'd be checking the error messages.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's error messages as well.
Am I getting every combination of error message back through the API?
Yep, good ones. So there it is. So also things like security.
Yep.
If I might do pen testing through the API as opposed to through the front end.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is. I mean, there are some testing you do through the front end as well. Anyway, that's pretty much it for me.
Anyone else?
Sonia, Gaurav, Jyoti, Sonia.
Yes. So this is what I wrote. I think. Are you able to see that?
No, I'll put you up. I'll put you up on solo layout. So yep, we see it now.
Okay. So I'll be talking about this API. So, as of my experience, a new project that we are taking care of, we are into this microservices testing. So, so there we are going to test what I thought. Like there are certain business logic, so that is coming from some sort of calculations from DB. We need to look for, and then some SQL injection kind of thing that we can test, which is again nothing but I think security test and unit testing. I think component level test that we can do, and we can just work with developers on that, right? How individually that functionality works. Let's say for username specifically, is it accepting uh, you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, this is it what I have.
Okay. Sonia, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Anybody else?
Gaurav has dropped out, but he says, can you just show the previous slide?
Can I do that?
Sorry?
Can I do that?
Yeah, you can do it. You just need to share your screen again. Sorry, share your screen again, yeah.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, just adding it to the stream. Yep. So just to repeat for Gaurav and for anyone else, you draw a test automation pyramid, identify other tests that may be best automated at each level, i.e. unit, API service, UI. Think about the value, what matters to the business, to the customer, and what tests will be better served as exploratory test charters, and then we show our findings.
One of the things I thought with exploratory charters might be about the look and feel. What does the login screen look like? And then when I log in, what does that look like? Is that is that what I'm expecting? And then I thought, what's the longest error message? Can I see that? Is that has the screen got space to display that?
Hmm.
You might also, exploratory testing, you might decide to run through the error messages and go, oh, well, these are the right ones, but are they useful? I'm sure we've all come across error messages that are not useful. Any other comments or pyramids people would like to share?
Yeah, if anybody's interested in showing their pyramids, let me just go back to the chat. Once again, if you do want to show your pyramids, you can join the live stream group at this link here. It's the same one that I posted in the YouTube chat. You just need to click on that. And then Jyoti said he had some networking problems. So Jyoti, are you happy to show yours, or are you solving problems? Also, Gaurav, thanks for joining again. Would you be interested in showing yours?
Yeah, hi Paul, and
Hello,
actually
good to hear from you.
yeah, finally, thank you for bringing up this session. It's a kind of a wonderful session, and I'm basically looking into the strategy part. That's fine, but yes, I wanted to show, like, I have divided the tests into UI API and the unit. But yes, for the login part, I would, instead of using the UI test, I would probably utilize it using the API, because a lot of tests these days are, I would avoid multiple login and logout for a particular tests, so that these tests would take a lot of time, lot of execution time. So instead of that, I would rather use the login using an API, and using some cookies or the session manager. Probably I can do that. So that's the reason I can put the login test into the API bucket.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
all right.
Thank you.
Shiva made a comment that they agree with me. Thank you. That's very nice of you. There's no other requests at the moment to join the live stream, or or any additional questions. So, do you want to carry on, Matt?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, you need to share your screen. You need to share the screen again.
Yep. Okay. Okay, this is an example of API test with a given when then format. So this is something that I've seen a lot in Agile. It's kind of part of TTD. Scenario: adding toppings to a pizza. Giving a list of toppings. When I add a new topping named meatballs, then the list should be longer and should include the topping name meatballs. So that's all pretty straightforward. The only parameter here is meatballs, and this is the only thing that's important. If you add another value, say cost, then that would be unnecessary complexity, since it is not part of the test. The add a new topping would be the test method, the step definition, and the step definition in the automation code. So this is just saying that when you've got one thing that you just check one thing, and that your test automation is just checking that one thing. That your list, in this case, the list is longer, your drop-down list is longer, and it includes the new ingredient. Okay, what's important to remember? The automation pyramid is a tool to talk about automation tasks and how to prioritize them. And this can help you with getting help. There's also a way to make automation visible to the whole team. It's a way to devote time and people to automation tasks. It's a great way to show the whole team a holistic view of automation. So if you put up a big pyramid on your wall and you can show where automated tests are going to happen, or even when you know for this sprint where acceptance criteria tests are going to happen. Okay. Any questions or comments here on then pyramidal layers of testing? Nothing there, Paul?
Nothing yet. If you don't mind me posing a question.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to introduce Sonia and Gaurav back in. They're the only people on the live chat, on the live stream, if they've got any questions to ask.
Yep.
Yeah, quick question from me. What happens if you're in a team which seems to be very, very heavily focused on UI automation? They see UI automation as like the big ticket item. I was in a team before that spent a lot of money on Quick Test Professional, or HP UFT, that eventually became, and the idea was that was the tool we have to use for our automation because we'd put all that investment into it, and the customer's always about the UI, so we should do stuff there. And I found it quite hard to challenge at times because, how would you approach that particular problem?
Oh, I guess you need to give you stuff, I'm all for acknowledging feelings, and that you should acknowledge that this is going to be a battle that maybe you can't win. But I would start trying to understand what's the maintenance cost here, and who is doing that, and are we talking about maintenance? You're doing it every quarter, for major releases, and how often is that test suite running compared to an alternative approach about doing API testing, on the acceptance criteria level, at every sprint, and could you have both? Could you do API testing at sprint level for acceptance criteria, and then have this larger well, I guess at the GUI level, are we talking end-to-end tests, Paul?
Yeah, end-to-end tests, or maybe some sort of focused functionality tests, but mostly end-to-end.
Yeah. So if you could say, okay, well, within sprints and up to releases, we're going to do API testing to show that this is progressing, and then we're not breaking from sprint to sprint, or even build to build, and then you can push in your GUI one, which runs less often at the end. And maybe over time you could change that when people see how quickly it runs and the benefits. But even that could be uphill. I've just started working at Transport New South Wales in the SAP team, as I was saying, and their vendor has just created tests using UFT, and I'm thinking, oh, this thing's going to run like a dog.
Yeah.
But even getting the UFT software installed on people's laptops so they can run it is turning out to be a huge challenge. So,
yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to live long enough to see the results of this thing. It's taking so long.
Yeah, UFT is not the fastest tool. It's easy to use, but it's not my favorite, to be honest.
Yeah.
In other news, Anne Marie has joined us. She's posted in the chat. Hello, everyone. Hello. Anne Marie's a mutual testing friend of both of us. She says she's missed the start, but she'll try and catch up.
Okay. So now on to making decisions on where to start. So what are the trade-offs between automating and doing the testing manually? Why might we choose automate, all or none? Trade-offs might include length of time, complexity, cost of the automation, or perhaps it is something you know will change in the next week, so no point in automating yet. The point of this exercise is to have the discussion to get people to realize you may not want to automate everything, and trade-offs are a negotiation to be decided upon. So, Paul, in your example, when they were doing the GUI test automation, how was it decided what to automate?
In my case, it was we decided that we would focus on certain big ticket items that were very high risk.
Right.
For example, for this particular project, we focused a lot on a particular live streaming payment service, because we knew if there were any problems with that, it would, impact very much more so than other features. It would impact the bottom line. And we felt that if we only had X amount of time and resource to automate, we should concentrate on that first.
Yep.
I mean, it had its own problems with the automation. It wasn't a particularly great project, but and it was particularly tricky. But I felt that we made the right choice by concentrating on that payment side first before doing other stuff.
Yeah, Paul, I can't agree more that for most businesses, revenue is the most important thing, and making sure that you can still get your revenue is the most important high-risk part. At Transport for New South Wales on SAP, I would think that anything to do with money, people's pay, being able to pay suppliers accurately is important, but also making sure that you're not impacting the system so much that 80% of the people can't work, because that's got it's kind of got a money impact as well. People wasting their time. When I worked at IAG, our business representative told me that quality to him was not having the system go down, because if you couldn't sell insurance, it cost $250,000 an hour. So that again was revenue related. Has anyone else got a comment about this? Nothing else there, Paul? Okay. What hurts the most?
Sorry, I just realized I was on mute. Sonia, Gaurav, Jyoti in the live stream, have you any thoughts? Or hello, Anne-Marie. I'll just bring you in as well. Hello, Anne-Marie. Good to hear from you. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Welcome to the live chat.
Yeah. Good to see you too. Thanks.
We're just having a discussion now about the trade-offs between automation and doing the and doing the tests. Sorry, I'll try again then, because I know there's a bit of a delay. What are the trade-offs between automating and doing the testing manually? And why may we choose to automate all or nothing? And all the people in the live chat, feel free to speak.
Yeah, so I find that when there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of refactoring, that makes a big difference.
Yep. So when a part of code is going through,
so I wouldn't be testing. Yeah, so I tend to focus more on sort of exploratory testing.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, I'm very keen on exploratory testing, almost especially as a way of coming up with new scenarios that are more pertinent to the specific, and more up to date for the specific functionality I'm looking at.
Okay. So another approach is, what hurts the most? What's your biggest obstacle? Time, tools, code design. The example can be just enough automation, and try keeping an impediment backlog. So further to Jyothi's comment about, how do you make a start? The impediment backlog might be a good idea here. There's an example about, testing reporting can be really really quite painful. It can require a whole lot of data setup, and nobody else in your environment to change that data, and you churn it through, and then you pop out your report at the end and show that the data that you put in is the data on the report. An example from Janet is she used SQL, so just got the SQL out and just went, okay, well, is the SQL that report's working on, is that doing the thing? And this can be, you can use a test automation to do that rather than produce the actual report itself. And don't forget about fast feedback. The faster it is, the more often you use it, the more value you have. Okay, so I found this really useful, automation decision guidelines, risk analysis with benefit versus costs. So if you return on investment against your cost of automation. So when you've got the highest benefit and the lowest cost, you've got here, high coverage is worthwhile. Down the bottom left, when you've got low gains and low cost, this is an easy win, but maybe limit coverage. At the top right, we've got high benefit and high cost. You can mitigate the risk here with sufficient coverage. So you're going, okay, well, we've got a high benefit, but we've also got high cost, so we'll minimize our high cost with just doing sufficient coverage. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got lowest benefit and highest cost. Don't automate anything here, or maybe just your happy path. So this is a good way of, if you need to make a decision, good way to lay it out. What we're doing is aiming for the top left quadrant, the highest benefit and the lowest cost. What else can we automate? So we kind of discussed this earlier. Any tedious or repetitive task, any task that is error prone, builds and deployments, obviously. Smoke tests. Smoke tests are my favorite to automate because I don't want to get in the system and go, I can't even log on. Passing and comparing output, automating tasks for business. Oh, I've seen like a marketing campaign done with test automation where you're pulling out data about customers' addresses or sending them letters automatically. Okay. What we shouldn't try to automate. Tests that are really expensive, one-off tests covered elsewhere, usability tests, look and feel, obviously, can be done by humans. Exploratory testing, again, best done by humans. And customer ad hoc testing, best done by customers. We can use tools to support exploratory testing. More of this later, but I'm a real huge fan of test automation for data creation. I come from an insurance background where it's really data heavy, and not having the right person in the right postcard with the right kind of car at the right age can be an impediment to your test case. Okay, where else should we be careful? Automating end-to-end tests. Tests through the user interface is slow, and tests that touch the database are also slow. So aim for minimum feature coverage. And don't go overboard automating. Don't automate everything. Also, Paul, back into your case about when they automated through the GUI, was what paths through the application were chosen?
Are you talking about the specific reference to the payment service, you mean?
Yeah.
So the idea would be customer would open the payment. It's a while ago, actually. It's about 5 years ago, so I'm just trying to collate everything in my mind. But it would have been something like the user clicks on this payment portal, and then they enter their card details and their name, email, and they would execute the and then we'd have like a fake credit card for it that was given to us by this third party payment integration thing, and they would execute the payment, and then they would have the UI would change. They would suddenly have options in terms of being able to watch live stream sporting content that they previously didn't have. So I think this would be like live stream. I think it might have been rugby. They could suddenly watch live stream and recorded matches.
Live stream. Oh, yep, I see. Yep.
And then these would be reflected in new UI options, navigation things.
Okay. Any questions or comments about that?
I'm just having a look in the live and private chats. No new questions. Has anybody on the currently in the live StreamYard got any questions they'd like to put forward to, or any comments?
Yeah, I
Please
have a
unmute
question.
yourself. Cool.
Yeah, can you hear? So like so I'm okay with that. Don't overboard like automating the all the flows, right? So like with my previous employer, I was working for the e-commerce employer where we were automating the end-to-end checkout journey. So the workflow will be same, but there is a different input options. Like there is a different delivery option, home delivery, click and collect, and different payment options, credit card, and some part pay, some other options. So we have automated almost all the flows, though the workflow is same. At some reason, some of the combination will fail, and we can't find any root cause for it. So we supposed to automate all these combinations um, to identify exactly which particular input combination is causing the payment failure or checkout failure. So in that case, what could be your approach, like instead of automating same checkout journey for different parameters like home delivery or click and collect or different payment options? So how you will make it work and make sure that the checkout is all the time successful, all the business logics are working as expected?
Yeah, so my suggestion would be to use the API. Is there an API you can use to check that? And can you just vary those two variables through that API? So if there's, yep.
Yeah, yep. I agree.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that would give you, if you have 3 payment types and 4 delivery methods, is that 12 combinations? You know, half of those would be the same. So is that 6 combinations maybe?
Yeah, but there is another problem, Matt. Like it's a mobile application, so it's a native application. The thing is, they are saving some data, for example, address internally in the local database, mobile phones local database. So based on the stored address, we are displaying the delivery price for rural address or urban address. So everything is, we have to consider all these factors when we consider these flows for automation. So those things I can't do via API. So I have to go with UI automation.
So you're saying there's rural or metro delivery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So can you abstract addresses? Can you extract combinations to those two? Rather than having specific addresses, just going, okay, well, this is the address we're going to use for rural and this is the address we're going to use for metro. Would that work?
Yeah, but it is related to the customer profile. The customer could have stored rural address, then they would have moved to urban address. So both the address will be stored in the local DB in their phone, basically against their customer login credentials. So it is sometimes confused to pick the incorrect address and decides the delivery value accordingly, the delivery price.
Oh, right. So this is a problem in the app itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Even we can't do this like manually. So we don't know the right way whether we can automate it, or because it is not guaranteed 100% that the issue will happen when we do manual testing.
Oh, so you're actually struggling with consistently being able to reproduce.
Yes. Yep. But we are getting so many customer complaints in this scenario.
I'm afraid there's no easy answer to that. Has anybody else
I was just about to say my gut instinct here would be to look at the code and speak to the developer, see if you can find out what's going on there, because I think it's probably the quickest shortcut to understanding what's sort of happening. I don't think this is necessarily going to be, that's probably the quickest way to solve the problem. And then see maybe from looking at the code, you can understand what's the best way to test it. Has the developer? Sorry.
You mean the developer's code base?
Yeah. I mean, what tests is the developer doing at that level, and is there something that the developer can do at a lower level that will help identify? Because it feels like, there's two issues here. One is finding the bug. Unfortunately, your customers are finding the bug for you, right? And then there's how do we test it well? So I guess, finding the root cause of the bug is probably more important than at the first thing is then how to test it, right? And then once you kind of understand how it works at a code level, it might give you some answers as to how you could test it without using the GUI. So I'd be pushing the question down to the dev to say, look, is there something you can do here? Because this is really hard to test at the GUI level.
Oh, it's really hard to reproduce even.
Yeah.
Josie, does that give you some ideas?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you so much.
you get a whole different set of problems now.
Yeah.
Like speaking to the developer and convincing the developer to help you out. So good luck.
I suppose one way of convincing them is by telling them that we as testers, our job is to make developers look good. And if they help us more, the more we make them look good. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you, Jyoti, for asking.
All right, let's move on. Oh, there's nothing. No one else, Paul?
No, nobody at the moment. Sorry, carry on, Sonia.
Yeah. Hi, Paul. I have a
Hi,
question
hello.
for Matt. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So, So as I said, like the first thing that I pinged you, like I'm new to UI automation, though I have 10 plus years of experience in testing. So I got an opportunity to work for this automating the task, right? Especially for UI. So it's like, okay, so when designing UI strategy, so we came up with the tools and technology that we are going to use, that we are done. And let's say if we are into Scrum, we are our company into Agile and this Scrum. So we are following Scrum methodology. So let's say tools, technology, everything has been finalized. Now it comes to framework setup, right? So how to what is the initial point actually where to start the UI test? Right now we don't have any. There are few epics that's for Q3, right? And that's not for UI. That's for API and DB. For UI, there are no much screen, nothing. So from UI perspective, from automating UI, so what can we do to just to show a start? Yeah, at least we are doing something, right? So we are on the set.
So these epics aren't at the UI, so I don't understand what customer value they deliver in.
That's what the product owner, they have created epics, so they created actually features, right? So this is one for geo, this is for search, like this, right? So now their next task would be to again segregating those epics into API UI level, right? To provide the wireframes, all those stuff to the team. Right. So this is not yet defined. Let's say soon if they are coming up with wireframes. So what can we do as a tester? So
So first of all, let me get this straight. Your epics are at the API level and they're wireframes. They're not actually like as a customer I want, or as a user I want something. Because I don't understand how your epics could be at not at that level.
Sorry, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is our product owner has created epics, and they are saying this is feature for us, right? And then they have a separate team for front end, and then one for data and API. So now they are dividing those epics, one for API team and database team, another which will be separate for UI team, where they'll be giving us sort of like screenshots or UI UX design kind of thing to us. Let's say when they comes up with this, so what next for us, right? So if we are defining a strategy, things that in its scope, so what we can automate actually, so what we can design.
So it sounds like to me you've got epics for API and you've got epics for the GUI. Is that right? And they're separate.
Yes,
And
yeah,
then
absolutely.
at some point, and then some point in the future they're going to come together and give you a workable solution.
Exactly, they'll be integrating both of them. Yeah.
Right. Okay. To start off with saying that I'm not a fan of cutting it that way, but you're in this situation, so how can we make this the best of it? So this is why API testing is so much more powerful, because you could do that straight away as soon as your APIs are delivered. The GUI testing, you're going to have to wait for the whole solution to be delivered, and that's not going to give you fast feedback. I don't know if there is a way to automate any of that if you're just doing it at the GUI level. I would be suggesting that you see what you could do at the API level. You could do, and then if you've got the GUI and you've got wireframes and screenshots, can you do a desk check of that? Can you do walkthroughs? Can you talk about what does this button do? Where do error messages go? Where am I going from here to there? Navigation stuff, all that sort of kind of desk checking stuff I find really useful with wireframes.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, pretty much actually. Yeah. The reason why I joined this session is because the feedback that I got from on this UI test strategy document, the person who is reviewing that, they told me like, why didn't you include this test parameter for automation? And then suddenly your mail comes up that from Sydney Tester, and it's like, okay, there is a session on this pyramid for automation. So that's like serendipity. Yeah. So yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm just having a look in the comments. There's nothing on the YouTube comments.
Okay.
Anybody else in the live stream? Would anybody have any more? Feel free to unmute yourselves and ask a question if you like.
Look, maybe Paul, you know this a bit more than I do. But I actually thought there was a type of test automation, UI test automation, that you could do without the API. Purely sort of that mocked the UI and didn't have the back end. Like you could do a very superficial level of that type of testing. I thought that was available.
There is. I know of it. I've never used it though. I'll be honest.
No,
with you.
I haven't used it for myself, but I have heard that it exists. So I think it might be worth just doing a bit more research. It might be just actually doing some research. There might actually be a tool that will help you with that. And a framework that might help you. So yeah.
There is a type of sorry, carry on.
Yeah, it's okay, Paul. So I agree with you and Annie, Marie. So the thing, like when we don't have anything developed for the application and we have only wireframes, and we could have get the mock response from the developers, and as you told Annie, we can use something called browser mob to integrate with the, like we can basically get the element information from the wireframe, and the element information is going to be same when the developers are using the wireframe. So we can like make a agreement, like if there is any changes developer are making, we can get to know that priorly, and we can write our automation test, and we can use that mock response using the browser mock. And there are so many mocking tools, wire mock, there are so many tools available. We can write even happy path and unhappy path, even though the backend is not yet ready. We can do some automation. That I have this kind of experience, like we have done these things.
Okay.
That
I guess a good question. With. I mean, and I think it goes to Matt's sort of thing is that's so where's the value in that? Is there a value in actually automating stuff like that, or is it really kind of providing low value and maybe high cost for something that's, you know, not very bad. I don't know, because I haven't had experience in that area, but yeah, that would be the first question I had. But yeah. Are you on the Ministry of Testing channel? Do you know the Ministry of Testing? They have a Slack channel. They have an automation channel. Would they be able to maybe answer some questions on that?
I'll see if I can get the link for that and post it in the.
Yeah. They're usually very helpful, you know, in answering those types of questions.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's move on. Economics of test design. So this slide really is kind of stating the obvious, that poor test practices leads to tests that are hard to understand and hard to maintain. And good test practices increase your benefits, are simple, well-designed, and refactored tests. So looking at this slide, I'm thinking, well, when you first start, you might end up at the first bullet point. And your test practices are likely to be poor, and your tests might be hard to understand. They might be hard to maintain. But, you know, I think that's fine. That's it. You know, you're going to be on a pretty steep learning curve. And often at the end of a project, the first thing I'm thinking, oh God, if I do this again, I'd be doing it a whole lot different. So this is going to be the same for your test automation effort. As you go, you're going to learn, and your test practices are going to improve. Be prepared to throw out some stuff or admit that, you know, that was a mistake, and either refactor or redo or delete. What are some good automated test design ideas? Okay. So consider functional test design. This should be readable by the business. Keep it simple. One purpose per test. Clearly express what it is testing. This is much easier to debug. Is rerunnable, independent. So I avoid having given, when, thens, and then thens have several ands. Probably 2 is all you want. If these things weren't brought up in the, okay. So that it turns abstract, keeping it readable by the business, or take abstract concepts and put it into business language. And a good functional design will hide the details, and that will help with maintainability. Respect the tests. If the test was worth writing and automating, then don't comment it out if it fails, don't ignore it if it fails, and fix the code or fix the test. If your exit criteria is less than 100% of automated regression tests passing, then really, why are you bothering? So refactor and keep them clean and up to date. Remember to fix the test or fix the code and make them pass. You know, I've been in situations when I turn up and, you know, regression tests are run and then 10%, the same 10% fail all the time. Well, what's the point of that? Test data. Avoid database access when possible. Use an in-memory database for unit or API tests. And use set up and tear down tests to create and tear down your test data. Use production-like data. So get product owner or customer to provide example data. You know, this might come from your production system, and maybe some of this might need to be depersonalized. Test data can be a real-time drain. Automated tests ideally create their own test data and tear it down. Sometimes that's difficult and takes too long. We can use different approaches for different situations. In my example in the insurance company, we would have a data sheet, and data would be pulled from that sheet one row at a time and run through. And then it was understood that this data covered the combinations we needed. If you're doing exploratory testing, then a good copy of production data that is scrubbed is very, very useful to have, and, you know, easily searchable, so you can find the sort of data you need. System impacts. This is an example from Janet and Lisa's second book on page 58, and this is from an API Lisa's team developed. It helped them visualize how the system validated user requests. So this is saying that, can you draw an architecture diagram of your system? What are the touch points? So the first thing I like to do when I go into a new team is understand what's the architecture. As this job for Transport New South Wales in a SAP environment, this is, I've seen so many architecture diagrams, I'm now being overwhelmed. They've kind of got it at the integration level and at the business level, and I'm still struggling to work out exactly how it works, how it fits together. This will probably take a few weeks, I imagine. So every tester should know how your system looks, what the different components are, how they integrate, and what's their purpose. So this way you can understand system impacts. So this is a picture of a remote data management site that Janet worked on. You can see here that some of this connectivity is through satellite, which might be a problem during storms in my experience. You know, you're going to test that. How do you do that in this situation? What is important, you're able to automate at the lower level if you cannot understand where the touch points are. Every person should be able to draw a high-level picture of their own system and what inputs into a component, what comes out. Okay. Any questions or comments about test design or test data?
No new questions in the chat.
Okay.
Any questions from the live stream group?
And Paul, how are we going for time?
It's currently coming up to 6:45. We've been on for about 1 hour and 11 minutes.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking the rest is about okay, so the next bit is about developing an automation test strategy. So we might just quickly flick through that, and then I think we'll call it a day. So this is applying Agile principles. So you need a whole team approach. So your whole team is your product team. The team is responsible for all testing activities, including automation. The team needs all the skills that are needed to do that. So, you know, I've seen some places that have a dedicated test automation team, and you know, test automation kind of sits with them, and they're kind of more about the regression stuff. But you might have a test automation team who are then put out to your product teams that can also work. The whole team is automation infected. So one of the benefits of Agile principles is the whole team approach. Remove the silos, get the devs, testers, product owners, BAs, DBAs, every role collaborating. Testers know what tests need to be done, and programmers know how to design code to make it easier to test. Plus, they know good code design techniques, and DBAs can help with test data and so on. So for programmers, writing automated test code is trivial. It takes very little time, versus if testers want to do it and aren't experienced programmers or don't code very much, it will take a huge percentage of their time, and they won't have time for other critical activities. So maybe once you get, you know, your test automation up and running, is this something that programmers are going to do? Is this something they're going to do, you know, from day one maybe? The team can plan stories in small enough increments for test code test, including automation. So an example of a company where Janet consulted, testers were business users. Developers knew that load and performance was important, so they found a way to test it fairly simply and often. They have graphs to show peak times and compare it to previous versions. They didn't wait for someone to tell them it was needed. So this is another thing for automation. Can you include performance and security? So it's not something you're struggling to do at the end and you're doing it all the time. Do you need specialists? Specialists may bring in shared or outside resources. Performance, load, security, localization, or internationalization. There could be toolsmiths. The team is still responsible for completing all the tests, but your specialists help them do this. You get multiple viewpoints provided by different perspectives to risk. Simplicity and courage. So understand the problem, break it into small chunks, try the simplest thing first, adapt and continue. So I think this is back to Jothy's example about, you know, kind of where do you start and how do you break down the problem. Learn by doing. Again, you're going to make mistakes. Celebrate failure, and pair with people to share knowledge and learning. Automation retrospectives. So I've been doing, I've been managing UAT to get some production instances through to production, and we're going to have a retrospective tomorrow. You know, I found retrospectives one of the really most valuable things from Agile, and there's no reason your automation can't be included. So what you want to find out is it getting it over time? If it's not, then what needs to change? How much time is spent on maintenance? Is this going up? If that's happening, then this is what they like to call a smell. So not a good thing. Can you find ways to make tests more adaptable? Are you investing time in refactoring? And are the tests actually finding regression bugs? And if they're not, why not? Do you need other tests, different tests? Are those tests not doing that? Maybe the tests you've got aren't doing the job you think they should be doing. If you have a community of practice for automation, decide what the cadence of retrospective should be. At the beginning, you may want them more often, but as your automation efforts mature, you probably need them less often. Secrets to keeping up. You need a whole team approach, small testable stories, iterative feedback, plan automation tasks for each iteration, and keep the big picture in mind. Other comments here, you are going to need time. You're going to need extra time to start with. So again, to reiterate, you might need to slow down before you can speed up. Okay. So I believe a person had a question about test strategy. Has that been answered? Do we need to come back to that?
I'll repeat the question, and then I think it's no. I think it's one that we haven't dealt with yet. First of all, I'll take off this. I'll take off the banner. There's a question here: is what are the things to keep in mind while writing test automation strategy for a group who are new to automation? This is Gaurav who asked the question. I think that's a question that we postponed.
Oh, okay. So use the test pyramid, start small, get buy-in from your product owner because it's going to take time. Do you need get buy-in from your developers because you're going to need their help? Kind of maybe even a workshop. You could treat this as a new product. Have a workshop to understand what you want to get out of it. What's your guiding question going to be, and then break the task down into epics. Use the test pyramid as a guide for individual stories about where to automate. Are you looking for? Is a test? What's the purpose of test automation? Do you want to go faster? Do you want to get a return on investment? Do you want to have? Do you want to have less testers over time? I'm not a fan of that. Or do you want different skills over time, perhaps? So I think your test strategy is really important for going, why are we doing this? And then lays out what we're going to do then to achieve that why.
Right. Thanks for answering this question. It's really wonderful to have those pointers listed. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. All right, that's the end of the talk. Any final questions or comments?
Yeah.
If Paul
go ahead, Gaurav.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I have one question, Matt and Paul, maybe for others also as well. So we talked about the automation, right, and all the stuffs that involves automation. What are the things to keep in mind? So that's really good. But my question is, if there is a problem statement wherein we need to set up a test environment, right? So there are a lot of environments needed for us, for example, to set up. Let's say there is a browser functionality, there is a SQL Server version number, and there are n numbers of softwares which needs to be pre-installed before running a test suite, right? So which category would be the part of the automation pyramid? I mean, UI, API, unit test. So how can we think over that or bifurcate that?
Oh, great. So you've got your test environment is defined by these number of different factors. You're saying,
right?
Different characteristics and components.
Right. For example, I want to install a SQL Server version, let's say x.x.x, right? And the other set is x.y.z, right? So I need to pre-install that before executing the test suites. So which category of the test pyramid that we just talked about would that fall into?
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't think that it falls under any of those. It's part of the what else can you automate, and it might be setting up your environment.
Right.
So
Right.
if you can use containerization to to hold that environment, can your automation kick off that container, set it up, get it running, and then run your smoke tests? And when your smoke tests pass, can it run your actual tests, the rest of your tests? That sort of approach, yeah?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav. Is there anybody else either who's in the current meeting, sorry, in the current StreamYard live group, or anybody in the YouTube who would like to make any more questions or have any more comments?
Yeah,
just unmute
say,
yourself and speak.
sorry.
Carry
Yeah,
on.
it's
Carry on,
it's
Justin.
it's a really interesting and insightful session, and thank you for organizing and this call and Matt. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Well,
Jay.
thank you for joining. It's really the it's as much the audience and the people who've come in, who are watching and asking the comments and contributing to the discussion, doing the exercises there, as much to do with it. As much shall I say, they're as much to do with the success of the meetup as we are. So thank you, all
And
of you.
finally, thanks, Anne-Marie, for sending me along on the course in the first place. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. And
Sure, that's fine. Thank you.
it might be worth mentioning Testing Times as well. The group that Anne-Marie runs, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we run a testing consultancy where we deliver training and coaching and test automation services, as well as exploratory testing services. So yeah, we do it all. So if you feel like you ever want to get some assistance in what you're doing, feel free to reach out to us. Testingtimes.com.au is our website. So I'll put it in the chat if that's okay, Matt. Paul, is that all right?
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, put it in the chat. You're more than welcome.
Thanks very much, Paul.
Well, thank you. And also, are you still running the quality engineering group? Do you still do things for that?
Yes, we still are running that. We had our first live in-house face-to-face meetup last week, which was really, really nice to be back in and meeting people face-to-face again. So that was really great. Yeah, I missed it. I didn't realize how much we missed networking, like in the flesh, so to speak.
Oh, it is. We are so looking forward to one day having meetups again in person. I should actually get on with that, organizing those. But
maybe
yeah,
we'll have a joint one.
Well, that would be awesome. I'd be up for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly. But we just had one question from the YouTube live chat. Well, there's a couple actually. First of all, it's from Shiva Krishna Chepiala. First of it is a comment that unit testing would be the first approach after setting up the environment. I think this is more coming from the discussion between you and Gaurav.
Yep.
And the next line is, or as you said, it should be a smoke test.
It depends on, I guess, the build system and how your build system is going. If your container has already taken something that's being unit tested, then great. But if it hasn't been, then yes, unit testing would be the first step. Thank you, Shiva.
Shiva had another question. Quick question: can it be possible to share the book name that you mentioned before, Matt?
Yes, I will put both those book names in the chat right now.
Okay. Just put them in the YouTube chat.
Right.
Or if you put them in the private chat, then I'll copy them and paste them in the YouTube chat. Just something else in the private chat. Oh, yeah, okay. I'll. That's the name of the book. I've just added it to the YouTube chat as well. Any other questions from the floor, or from the YouTube chat? Just unmute yourself and ask. No, it looks like everyone's satisfied. So we might as well wrap it up now, because it's about coming up to an hour and a half. But I just want to say thank you so much, Matt. And I think everyone's had. Let me just put myself back on video again.
Paul, just one last question. So how?
Oh, carry on, Sonia. Carry on, Sonia.
Because yeah, this is the first session that I attended. So, and I'm really impressed by the details that like Matt has shared. So looking forward for more sessions, right? So just let me know like how frequent you guys organize such sessions. Yeah, would be happy to join.
If you're a member of the meetup, you'll be notified every time we have an event.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
There are two ways. There's another way as well, which is if you subscribe to the YouTube group, the YouTube channel, which is Paul's Testing Rants. You'll also get notified of new events. But the best way to do it really is through the meetup group. Did you find this chat? Did you find this meetup event through the meetup group, or did you find it through YouTube, or LinkedIn?
Meetup.
Oh well, that's fine. If you already know it through Sydney Testers,
yeah.
If you're a member of Sydney Testers, then you'll receive notifications for all of these events.
All right, that's great.
And for those people who have joined from other areas, I'll just post I'll post in the chat the URL for the meetup group, which you're more than welcome to join. It doesn't matter whether you're in Sydney or not, really. So that's the event for the actual group is the actual event tonight is www.meetup.com Sydney Testers events, and then that number. But if you go to meetup.com Sydney Testers, you can just join the meetup, and then you'll be notified for future events. And I should just wrap up by saying thank you so much for joining. Sorry, I've just got another private chat. Oh, Anne-Marie just sent a message saying thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right, cool. Just to quickly, just to highlight the books that were mentioned by Matt earlier on the screen. So we had Agile Testing, a practical guide for testers and agile teams, and that's by Janet Gregory and Lisa Crispin. And if there are no more questions, then I'll wrap up the meetup. But I just want to thank you so much, Matt, for joining. For agreeing to speak and for speaking, and also to say that if there's anybody who's interested in joining our events, or sorry, who's interested in help, we're always looking for people to help out either with running events or as members of our committee. I'll just post you my email in the chat. And feel free to send me an email, and I'll put you on our LinkedIn list of people who are in our committee, and then we'll organize. And when we have our next organizer event, we'll invite you to that. So I'll just do that. Just send me an email, and I'll reply back to you as soon as possible. There it is, paulwaltersau@gmail.com. If you're interested in getting involved, also if you're interested in speaking, we're always looking for speakers and presenters. So if you have something you're really passionate to talk about, or you want to put your name out in the testing world here in Sydney, and you'd like to do a talk for us, please just get in touch. So yes, it's paulwaltersau@gmail.com. And afterwards, I should say thanks very much to all the people who joined. Thanks to the people who are watching. Thank you to Jyoti, Anne-Marie, Sonia, and Gaurav, who all joined through the chat, who joined in the actual StreamYard. And I just want to say, and thank you to Matt for presenting. And I'll put you on so you can so we can wave at you, Sonia, as well. This is the first time we've actually done an event where we've tried to be in. Well, we did it a little bit before in the previous event when I was talking about machine learning, but this is the first time we've tried to make it really interactive, and it's not, you know, I mean, I think it's actually worked very well.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Good night.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a great night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.